Hey, welcome to Spotlight ETSU. Today we're going to be talking with Jay Sandos of Buck Sports, also known as the voice of the Bucks. After that, we're going to be talking with Dr. Joe Moore, Director of Athletic Bands. So stick around, we're turning on the spotlight. Welcome to Spotlight ETSU. Today we're talking with Jay Sandos here, the voice of the Bucks. Now, Jay, can you tell us, first off, just tell us a little about yourself. You know, where do you come from? You know, what makes you you?
That's a great question. When I figure out what makes me me, I'll let you know. But I originally from Hendersonville, North Carolina, so just about an hour and a half up the road, and third generation ETSU graduate. So kind of grew up a Buccaneer, and so knew I wanted to come to ETSU, knew I wanted to be in radio. So kind of came with a plan. I think a lot of college kids sometimes either don't have a plan, or they go to college, they're trying to figure it out, or might be leaning 2 or 3 different ways. I didn't.
Sure.
Kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do. So from the time I was 6 or 7, pretty much had a goal to get into the radio side of things. The TV side just kind of evolved, just the way the world has evolved with TV, radio, streaming. But for the most part, it was a very simple plan. It was just grow up, go to college, and become a sports radio person, and it worked out for me. So that's that in a nutshell. Yeah.
So you came in knowing basically where you wanted to go, and you just kind of streamlined there. Now, did you come up through the RTVF program here at the university?
Oh yes, yeah. My degree is right here, RTVF, through the communications department, and in this very studio that we sat, I did the similar stuff to what the students do now. I produced a couple of my own TV shows, produced a couple different radio shows.
What did you produce?
The main thing we did was ETSU coaches shows. They didn't have traditional football and basketball shows when I was in school. They didn't have a company that did it. They didn't have, the athletic department didn't do it as we do today.
Right.
And they didn't have any of the outside media entities doing it. So I kind of pitched it to the athletic department. They kind of helped out. We got Fox 39, Jimmy Denton hosted it, and because he hosted it, he got it on air for us. So it didn't cost us anything to get it on air. We didn't have to buy time. We just basically had to put in the legwork to shoot it and edit it and put it together. And then the radio side of things, a couple different things. I did a kind of overnight variety show. It was almost 4 hours. It was 10 to 2 at one point, and then we went 10 to midnight. Wow. And then the other thing was basically whenever I got a chance to do the games on the campus station. So a lot of ETSU home games. I did that as well. And then I helped out on a lot of other shows. I mean, I pretty much lived in one of the studios.
Well, you would have to for all that.
Well, when you know what you want to do, I mean, it was a situation where a lot of people, you know, and a lot of people have different stories on how they get to where they are and how they can pay for school and stuff. But I figured instead of getting a part-time job at, you know, a grocery store or something like that, it was more important for me to spend as many hours as I could down here working and getting experience and learning everything about the business and the aspect of it. So there was a lot of times that actually we slept in the studio, because back then there was only one editing sort of machine. It was all linear, and so to use the 3/4 inch deck and everything you had to do, you pretty much had to wait for somebody else to get done before you could get on the machine. So a lot of times there was a long line outside, and I wish they would have kept the old couch around, because everybody seemed at some point in time at least got a good nap in, or would sleep overnight there. And I remember sometimes when Tom Headley was here around the department, or even when Tammy or Candy would open things up, that sometimes they'd open a door and would hit somebody sleeping on the floor. Now, the advantage is now is the fact that you know, everything's digital. You can share stuff on the cloud. You can buy the software. You can have 30, and you know, you've got more editing suites. So the only you know, that's a huge advantage to what the students have nowadays, and just the way, again, the world's gone technology. The disadvantage is I feel like people kind of live in their own bubble and work on their own thing, so you didn't have as much unity working on different things. And then the reason I think that's important is because when you go out in the workforce, obviously, you know, having to work with others, learning how to edit for others, learning how to put something together for somebody else, because generally speaking, your first job out of college is probably not going to be producing and doing everything that you want to do. You've got to figure out how to get everything going for somebody else. So, yeah, and so it was a great experience. The best thing about this department is hands-on. Exact same thing you guys are doing now. Everybody in the back is putting this together. It's how it helped me get to where I am. So I think it's great that the tradition of students being able to do things down here has continued throughout the years.
Yeah, I do enjoy that about this program and some of the others here at the university that are similar. You can get by with the grades, but they don't mean the same thing that they do in other programs here. You know, it's all about what you put into it. You can get by with A's, but if you've got no no work, no material or experience to show for it, it doesn't do much. It's all what you make it, getting your hands on experience.
I've never applied for a media job where they asked me what my GPA was.
Yeah.
They want to see what you've done, what you know.
It's all about what you put in.
And then people that get a chance, and I have a bunch of students that get a chance to work with us in athletics, doing similar stuff, what I was doing in school, on a higher level, producing our own games. This year we'll start ESPN 3, and so that's a brand that obviously people are familiar with, but also it opens up doors.
Yeah, tell us about ESPN 3. What exactly is going on with that? I know we had a basketball game showing on there, or the basketball team is showing on ESPN 3, I believe. Everybody was joking around about the extremely early game we had a few weeks back. So, you know, what's the deal with ESPN 3? What are we doing with that in terms of Buck Sports?
Well, they've changed the model a little bit. Instead of bringing true TV trucks and production companies to come in and do ESPN 3 games, where basically you might get 1, maybe 2 games a year, what they've discovered is if you have a built-in system and us having a solid broadcasting division, and we have that kind of infrastructure of people that know how to work the equipment, would like to work the equipment, get the experience. There's chances to get on air. There's chances to produce. There's chances to direct. You know, camera operators, just every aspect of a regular TV broadcast. And what the ESPN 3's done is help make that affordable for schools to produce themselves. And so it streams on all the Watch ESPN apps, and you know, with the smart TVs and the way the internet's going, a lot of people are just streaming things nowadays. So it's hard for ETSU, and the early morning game we had earlier was an actual ESPN 2 broadcast, which was shown worldwide on ESPN. We can't get many of those games. I mean, we have to play at 6 a.m. to get that type of game, to get that type of exposure. So ESPN 3 allows us to produce it ourselves and then get it up on the internet and allow folks that can, you know, able to access it at a much greater level to access our contest. And the big thing is it's not just, you know, on the computer like it used to be with the Atlantic Sun Conference or the Southern Conference, where you pretty much have to have a phone. And now they're getting better on tablets and phones, and but getting ESPN 3, you know, you can get it on TVs. You can get it on Apple TV.
So it's bona fide ESPN channel.
It's
3.
And it has, you know, it has the brand, which is the big thing. It opens up doors. But we're actually going to have our first test broadcast on December 10th, and then the rest of the game, if that goes well, then the rest of our home schedule for men's and women's basketball will be on ESPN 3. And so it's big for the school to get that exposure. I'm excited because it gives students a great opportunity to build some resume. It also allows, when certain things come to town, for an example, Bristol Motor Speedway is just down the road, NASCAR events, they hire out a bunch of freelancers the week of the race in the fall and in the spring, and I think also maybe for the drags. But now what happens is, instead of ESPN having to pay for a bunch of travel for people all over the country to come into the Tri-Cities, now as we do these games, we document who's doing what, who's ran what. They get a look at the logs. They may need somebody that's ran audio. They see that somebody's ran the audio board for us for 25 straight games. So they may call them and say, hey, we'd like to contract you out for the week.
Oh, very cool.
It doesn't matter if you're a student or not. You've got experience on the board, so they will.
You can really get your leg in the door with that, or get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. The opportunity that I got here allowed me to make a living for myself, and so part of what I try to do is pay that back and hopefully get people, you know, an opportunity to get jobs, because, I mean, the main reason you come to college is to get a job. So
try and get a career and whatnot. So do you feel like that's been successful so far, especially with this program, the ability to kind of you came here for that reason, and now you're getting to pass it on, sort of like new generations. Do you feel you've been successful in that?
Yeah, I think the combination between what goes on down here in the communications department and the folks that have been able to work with me, I think the folks that have produced their own stuff here, and the folks that have worked with Buck Sports across the street over in athletics, if you probably looked at both, and the people that have done both, which obviously means they're a go-getter because they haven't just sat back and did the minimum, they went overachieved a little bit. But if you look at that, the percentage of people that actually work in media or got a job right out of there, there's probably upwards of 80 to 90% of the folks, and probably the retention. Because one thing about media sometimes is, people think they want to work in media, but it's long hours, it's nights, it's weekends, you miss holidays.
Sure.
It involves travel. Pay early on obviously is not what it would be in some other jobs.
Very difficult.
Foot in the door. I mean, it's just a lot of things. So a lot of people maybe only last a couple years in media, and then they're like, this, want to have a family. I can't be away nights and weekends. So there's a lot of things that kind of work into that. But the people that have kind of done both kind of understand that. That's the one thing about at least working with sports. When you work with us, you have to work nights. You have to work weekends. Exactly. It may be during a Christmas break. So
exactly, you just got to do it and work your way up. So quickly though, briefly tell us, how can a viewer see the material you guys are producing? You mentioned, of course we have ESPN3 now, and you mentioned SoCon, and they stream a lot of stuff. So how can somebody tune into these games nowadays?
Well, the kind of central focal point is the ETSUBucks.com, and then there's different links to all those. So if you want to watch a particular game, the day of that game, there's a live link on the website. So it doesn't matter if it's on SoCon Digital Network or ESPN3, you just click the live link and it will send you to where you need to go, instead of having to search.
So ETSUBucks.com is just the main place to go.
That's the main place for day of game. Now, once games are archived, and the good news about SoCon Digital Network, the good news about ESPN3, if you couldn't watch that game, or a couple weeks later would like to go back and watch a game that you were at and maybe just wanted to watch it again.
It'll all be there.
Or just had a dramatic finish and you'd love to see it again. It'll all be there on the SoCon Digital Network on demand.
Very cool. Well, Jay, thank you for being with us. We've enjoyed having you on. That's it for Spotlight ETSU with Mr. Jay Sandos.